It indeed is a moment of joy. 2 vaccines in India have been given approval. The Drugs Controller General of India has now granted emergency use authorization for Serum Institute of India Covishield and Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. Vaccines there are, in fact, Covishield particularly is developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford, while Covaxin entirely developed locally, indigenous to India. Bharat Biotech along with ICMR there rolling out this vaccine, which is currently in phase 3 trials. Both these vaccines will be administered in 2 doses each. The DCGI's approval came right after the subject expert committee of the Central Drug Standard Control Organization recommended these 2 vaccines for emergency use in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the DCGI's decision, saying that approval of 2 vaccines is a decisive turning point to strengthen a spirited fight. Serum Institute Adar Poonawalla there saying that this is a moment of joy as Covishield gets emergency approval. He says that vaccine will be rolled out in the coming weeks, while possibly people may be able to access it privately at medics maybe by March. In fact, here the apex drug control body has now finally given approval to Covishield as well as Covaxin. Both these vaccines are locally produced in India, while Covishield, developed by Oxford AstraZeneca, produced by Serum Institute Pune, is rolled out right at the Pune Institute. In fact, 50 million doses have already been prepared as per Adar Poonawalla, and possibly the price of the vaccine would be somewhere around 440 rupees that Serum Institute will be giving to the government, and maybe for private buy, it could be about 700 to 800 rupees, while Covaxin's price is still yet to be established considering it's in phase 3 trials. Covaxin also is now developed by Bharat Biotech indigenously at the Hyderabad Institute. We're cutting across to Rahul Kanwal, India Today and Aaj Tak's news director, speaking with the director of ICMR. Let's take a listen.
We're joined on this broadcast at this moment by Dr. Balram Bhargava. He's the Director General of the Indian Council for Medical Research. He's the Secretary in the Department of Health Research, which is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Dr. Balram Bhargava, welcome to India Today. This is a day where there are questions swirling in people's minds about the decisions that the drug controller has taken, and we hope that over the next several minutes you can try and explain where the government stands on this and assuage people's queries. So question number 1, how soon do you see the vaccine rollout process start? Emergency approvals have been granted today. How much of a lag will there be between the grant of the approvals and the actual rollout of the mass vaccination process?
First of all, thank you so much, and I'd like to congratulate you, I'd like to congratulate India, I'd like to congratulate Indian scientists, and it's a great day for the Indian population at large, as well as the population of the low and middle income countries who will also benefit from the large stockpiles of this vaccine, which are being manufactured in India, both make in India as well as made in India, and we will be able to vaccinate the large population not only of India and ultimately outside of the lower middle income countries as well. So this is a ray of hope for them as well. The vaccine has been approved. The vaccines are available. The vaccines have been stockpiled. The program has had a dry run. We have seen it successfully done in several states of the country. We have a population which is ready to get vaccinated. I see no reason why we should not be able to roll it out within a week or 2 weeks, because everything is set, and we in India have been running the universal immunization program for the last 60 years, successfully vaccinating crores of children and mothers. So we have been doing this, and we have, from the Ministry of Health, excellent capability to do the same, and that should happen very soon.
Sure, it is indeed a big day, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about the Bharat Biotech vaccine, the Covaxin, which has been granted emergency use approval. Can you explain what this means and how the ICMR and the drug controller reached to this decision? Because the phase 3 trial results, the efficacy results, are not known. So we've essentially given emergency use permission to a vaccine whose efficacy isn't certain, isn't determined, hasn't been peer reviewed. How comfortable are you with that decision? Why was this decision taken? And what can you tell us about the efficacy of the Bharat Biotech vaccine?
So first of all, I would like to congratulate the drug controller and the the subject expert committee who met on 2 successive days for 7-8 hours and deliberated and came up with this formulation for India, for Covaxin as well as for Covishield, which is a hugely innovative and a proactive step of the scientific community, having given approval to these 2 vaccines in a very innovative. As we know, the Indian government and the Indian response to the pandemic has always been innovative, proactive and preemptive under a strong leadership, and therefore we have been able to manage this virus under and the pandemic in such a large population so effectively. So that is the point which I would like to say. In terms of the emergency use authorization, it has been given for both these vaccines. The emergency use authorization is slightly different for both of them. For Bharat Biotech, the emergency use authorization is a proactive step because we feel, the scientific community which were deliberating felt, and that is what is written in their recommendation, is that once the UK strain is has created havoc in the United Kingdom with 51,000 cases and 55,000 cases, they felt that this virus is now in India and they have had 29 cases, and the potential benefit of this whole virus vaccine may be more compared to any other vaccine, so it will add to the armamentarium of the Indian vaccine, Indian vaccination program to have 2 vaccines, just in case we have this virus spike up in this country, so that may be definitely more effective. And we have also, from the Indian Council of Medical Research, recently isolated the virus within 10 days, and we are looking at how this vaccine is going to be working on this the new mutant strain.
Now, so I've understood the rationale behind your decision, but I'm curious to know what is the efficacy in the phase 2 and the phase 3 trials which are currently on. What is the kind of efficacy, and why I ask this is because from Moderna, from Pfizer we've seen 90 plus, from AstraZeneca we've seen 70% efficacy being mentioned, and therefore the question will be asked, the second vaccine that's been approved, what is the efficacy? Do we at this moment, Dr. Bhargav, know what is the efficacy of the vaccine that you've approved?
The virus was isolated from at ICMR. The virus was given to Bharat Biotech. They developed the vaccines. We did all the preclinical work in small animals and large animals and challenge studies at NIV Pune, and clearly demonstrated in challenge studies the efficacy of this vaccine. The phase 1 and the phase 2 trial on 375 and 380 subjects have shown tremendous safety and an immunogenicity of about 98%, with none of the patients in these 2 groups, phase 1, phase 2, getting COVID. Number 3, in terms of the phase 3 trial, 23,000 patients have got the first dose, and their safety is fully established in these 23,000 patients having been given this vaccination, and the whole trial should be completed in the next 3 or 4 days in terms of 25,800 patients, and the approval has been given for clinical under clinical mode, which means that these patients who will be given this vaccines will be closely monitored, and the regulator will look at the data more closely for both for this vaccine as well as for the other vaccine, but it will be monitored very, very closely, and a rolling review will continue to happen. So from that perspective, I think it is a great step that the government has been innovative and proactive, and refinements will continue to happen. And this decision, which is a science-based decision by the scientific subject expert committee, and then endorsed by the drug controller, I think it's a great moment for Indian science to show its prowess across the world.
There's an interview with Dr. Randeep Guleria, the director of AIIMS. He essentially says that the Bharat Biotech vaccine will be used as a backup in an emergency situation when there's a sudden increase in cases. It is the Serum Institute vaccine that will be used primarily. Can you explain that? So you've got approvals to 2 vaccines. How do you intend to use these 2 vaccines? What role will the Covaxin play? What role will Covishield play? In the UK, for example, we're seeing drug regulators toy with mixed use, which means the first dose comes from one vaccine candidate, the second dose comes from another vaccine candidate. Is that something, Dr. Bhargav, that you're considering in India? How will you use the 2 vaccines that you've now given approval to, and in what quantities?
See, I have not given approval. I think the approval has been given by the regulator. The vaccine, I have been instrumental in getting the Bharat Biotech vaccine manufactured and tested along with private-public partnership with Bharat Biotech with the Indian Council of Medical Research. The most important thing is that now we have 2 vaccines available, so there is a tremendous flexibility available for the government. We are worried about the UK strain, and the UK strain has the mutation, which is probably not responsive to the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine, and therefore the CEO of Pfizer has said that we will modify the vaccine in the next. We can modify the vaccine in the next 6 weeks if the need be. Similarly, we have this whole virus vaccine, which will be potentially more effective against the UK strain. And therefore, this is a shot in the armamentarium of the Indian government to have 2 vaccines available. In terms of mixing doses, the United Kingdom has talked about that. However, the scientific reservations are there to mix different vaccines because we do not have data on the interchangeability and use of one dose of one vaccine and the second dose of another vaccine. We do not have any data in any country at of the moment on interchangeability. So both the vaccines can be stored between 2 to 8 degrees. Both the vaccines are 2-dose vaccines. Both the vaccines have to be given on 0 day and 28 days and can effectively be given intramuscularly.
So, Dr. Bhargav, from what I've understood of what you just told us, you're essentially saying that vaccines like the ones by AstraZeneca, by Pfizer, by Moderna, your calculations are that the new UK strain can penetrate these vaccines, or these vaccines cannot protect against the UK strain. That's a concern that you have, which is one of the reasons why the Bharat Biotech vaccine, which you think will cover the UK strain, has been given approval, essentially suggesting that AstraZeneca may not be able to cover the UK strain?
We do not know that yet, but scientifically speaking, the Bharat Biotech vaccine being a whole virus vaccine, covering the entire surface of the virus, working on all the proteins of the virus, may potentially be more effective as we speak. We have been able to isolate the virus from the ICMR in IV Pune within 10 days of the returnees who have returned to India with that virus, and we have been able to isolate the virus on a warp speed as we speak, and that virus will be tested with these different vaccines and their effectiveness in time to come. And it's being done at the moment at the NIV Pune.
So I was at the Pune facilities of Serum Institute just last week, and there I saw in their cold storage, they had 5 crore vaccines ready to ship. So that's 50 million. I was told that the purchase orders are currently 20 million, that's 2 crores. And I'm wondering what happens to the rest. Will the rest be thrown open for public consumption privately so they can be sold at chemists? How soon may that happen? Or will the government be scaling up to purchase all that these vaccine manufacturers can produce? How do you see this? By when do you think some vaccine batches may be made available for private consumption for those who can afford to pay?
As you know, that the vaccines have got emergency use authorization approval, whether it be in the United States, whether it be UK, whether it be Europe or in India. So once they are in emergency use authorization, they will not be sold. They will be sold openly only after they get full licensure, which will be based on the data that will be submitted on a weekly basis to the regulator. And then the regulator may take a call whether full licensure should be given to a particular vaccine, and that may then be available in the open market. In terms of the number of doses that you have seen,
have you thought this through so far? If things go well and if the data is positive, how soon can full licensure happen, sir?
Well, I am delighted to hear that you have seen such large number of doses at the SII Pune, which is wonderful, and we all already know that India is the largest manufacturer of vaccines in the world, and these vaccines will be utilized for the Indian population first, and then there is a ray of hope for the low and middle income countries from this vaccine, which will be given by the COVAX facility, which has been established by the WHO as a donor country. We will be able to supply it to certain low and middle income countries, wherein 20% of the doses will be supplied to these countries, and India is one of the donor countries for that, and that will generate a lot of goodwill for the nation.
Sir, I have a few philosophical questions about the process in which the vaccines have been approved. Ordinarily, it takes about a decade and a half for a vaccine to get regulatory approval. In this case, it's happened in less than a year. How confident are you, as the man who's responsible for medical research in our country, that the processes haven't been short-circuited in a way that in the long run we find that these vaccines have side effects which weren't known because of how fast the approval process was pushed through?
That's a very valid and a very important question. And from the scientific perspective, I think India has realized that the way we have always underestimated our capacity. We have always underestimated the capacity of our scientists. They have worked day in, day out. We have a Make in India vaccine, we have a Made in India vaccine, and we find that India has done phenomenally well and has shown the world its scientific prowess. From my perspective and from the scientific community perspective, there have been no shortcuts, right from the rat study to mice study to hamster study to monkey challenge studies to phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. There have been no shortcuts, and the safety is absolutely of no concern in terms of both these vaccines. Safety is fully established, immunogenicity is fully established, efficacy is also established, and there is no reason to believe that there have been shortcuts as far as Indian regulator and Indian science is concerned.
But the vaccines so far have been administered in clinical conditions. And for our viewers, I want to explain that means that the refrigeration is properly ensured, that the temperatures which are supposed to be maintained, the hygiene standards that are supposed to be maintained are properly logged. The moment the vaccines leave the airports, reach to the distribution depots, go to, say, the ASHA workers, then life changes. Then you're out in the field, then whether it's adequately refrigerated, kept out in the open, maybe bacteria can enter. So all those possibilities arise, which creates a greater prospect of there being some kind of a side effect. How are you looking at this transition from the clinical studies, which are naturally very well organized?
Sure. Rahul, I would not like to frighten our Indian population. India has been vaccinating, has a universal immunization program for the last 60 years. We have in fact vaccinating crores of mothers and children for several years. Having said that, we do have a very robust system in place. We have the COVID app. We have the dry runs which have been shown by your channel and other channels in different states, which have been carried out so effectively in all the states without any glitches. And we expect that the Ministry of Health has also has a system in place for several years, and even for this program they have upscaled it in every which way, whether it be maintaining the quality, maintaining the robustness of the vaccine, maintaining the vaccinators in terms of the number of vaccinators, and also the hygiene standards. The important point to remember here is that these vaccines can be stored at 2 degrees to 8 degrees, which is an ordinary refrigerator, and unlike the -70 or the -90, which is for the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. For both these vaccines that have been approved in India, both are robust. They can be stored between 2 degrees and 8 degrees, and they can be given at 0 days and 28 days. In terms of mixing the vaccines, you have asked, and I think that is one point where I don't think India is there is no scientific evidence as of the moment to mix the two vaccines. And also in terms of the timing of the dosage, there is not much data. Whilst the UK has said that we can give the doses after 12 weeks, but there is no data available to say that. So we will continue to give it at 0 day and 28 days for both these vaccines. And storing that at 2 to 8 degrees is not an issue at all as far as and we have heard the Ministry of Health talk about the number of refrigerators, number of cooling systems that are already in place, and they have been upgraded. The Ministry of Health has been working day in, day out for setting up this program, communicating with all the states, right up to the block level, and those systems are in place.
That's important. And I also found a slight difference between what you're saying will be done with what the vaccine manufacturer is saying. AstraZeneca says 8 to 12 week gap is the best for maximum efficacy. You, however, just said that the second dose will be administered after 28 days. Why is that? If the efficiency is higher after 2 months or 3 months, why are then we going with 28 days? Can you explain the rationale behind that, Dr. Bhargava?
Yeah, the rationale behind that is that currently the data that we have and currently the application that has been processed by the regulator has been 0 to 28 days. In case we have all different data which is going to emerge, the regulator will look at it and a review will be done, and if and when any changes have to be made, they will be made accordingly.
That's important. Okay. Now, when someone hears that the vaccine has an efficacy of 70%, can you explain in common parlance what that means? Does that mean that if 10 people get vaccinated, the vaccine will be effective for 7? What then, according to you, happens to the other 3? Will they still get coronavirus?
That's an important question which you're asking, but you have to remember that the efficacy of any vaccine in the world is not 100%. Particularly for these respiratory viruses, the influenza virus vaccine that we normally give every year, or the pneumonia vaccine that we normally give every year, every 5 years, their efficacy is anywhere between 50 to 60%. So even after vaccination, we will have to continue with our COVID-appropriate behavior of the use of masks, washing hands, maintaining hygiene, and maintaining social distancing. So that will have to continue. Having said that, if we are able to vaccinate a critical mass and break the chain of transmission of the virus, we may not need to vaccinate the entire population of the country.
Do you have a target for month 1, month 2, month 3? How many people do you hope to vaccinate, Dr. Bhargava, in month 1 once the process rolled out?
There is a target. We have enough stockpile. You have heard others at your channel and at other channels, and we have enough doses available to vaccinate what we had planned for the frontline workers. Healthcare workers are 1 crore, frontline workers are 2 crores, and then you have the elderly population with comorbidities, more than 65, more than 50 years of age, or population with comorbidities. So gradually we will be doing all these 3-4 groups, and we expect to do about 30 crore population by July, but you never know, we may be able to do more. If the systems are smoothly running, we may be able to do more. More importantly, which I would like to reiterate, is that we may, if we are able to break the chain of transmission, we may not need to vaccinate the entire population.
What are your current calculations saying? What is your estimate about what percentage of our population will need to be vaccinated, after which we'll be able to snap the chain of transmission of the COVID-19 virus?
It is very difficult to say. If I am able to answer this question of yours, I'll get the Nobel Prize tomorrow.
Okay, this has been a big day for you personally and for India's fight against the COVID-19 virus. I wish you all the best. My questions were searching and probing, but in my heart I hope that this works out really well for India, because this virus has really locked us up, and hopefully we can see each other smile, we can go back to hugging each other, holding each other's hands, shaking hands, and doing the kind of things which were earlier so common and now so uncommon. Dr. Balram Bhargava, deeply appreciate the effort you and your teams have made, and thank you very much for taking out the time to join us.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I think this is a proud moment for every Indian, and it will, I hope, and we all hope and we wish that we are able to break the chain of transmission of the virus as soon as possible and return our life to normalcy as soon as possible. And I wish all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. All the best. God bless.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.